good evening. If anybody in chat can just help me make sure that the audio and everything is still okay. Almost through with the season, just a few more races to go. Race number 8, round number 8 here tonight at Barcelona. And as you can see, it is going to be a bit of an inclement weather race. We have very high chance of showers all throughout practice, throughout the week, and in some of the practice races on the server throughout the week. There have been very, very many instances of wet, possibly flooded conditions. Visibility going to be an issue tonight. Same thing with traction and also just having enough track to use. Barcelona is credited as really being a one-line track. There's not really two competitive racing lines through the 3 sectors we have here at Barcelona, especially through turn 3. If you're not on the inside on that racing line, you're pretty much just going to be left and hung out to dry, which I'm sure you would like to dry here in the wet. Currently Slapshot, top of the timing boards, with about 15 minutes left in free practice. Last time we had weather, I believe it was at the Red Bull Ring. And it definitely made for some interesting racing. Maybe some weather thrown into the mix can make Barcelona a bit more of an interesting race. I can tell you what will be interesting guaranteed is qualifying. As always, GoFAST Racing puts on an absolute stunner of a show when it comes to qualifying. The last time that I did a broadcast here at Barcelona for GoFAST Racing, the top 25 drivers were separated by 1 second at the end of qualifying. Tychopath trying to get after an AM championship. Currently a 151.035, fastest time of the practice session. Granted, we do have only 13 of our nearly 40 drivers, actually over 40 drivers. 43 drivers entered into this race tonight. And Tychopath currently heading the entire field. Not the AM championship leader, but is definitely in the conversation. Sure hope my air is turned on. It's a bit warm in here. Rain set to increase throughout the rest of the session as Tychopath comes out of the final turn, down the pit straight to cross the line one more time and get another shot at improving that lap time. Currently Trixit, the top pro, was almost a second off, now knocks that margin down to about 0.3 of a second, just a little bit over. McLaren's looking to be strong, at least so far throughout this free practice session. Ferrari of Ouroboros up into P3. Prieto is going to be the one driver to have your eyes on. We'll see if Prieto is out yet. Is Prieto in the session? Unsure. Yes, Prieto back in the Honda. The number 210 Honda NSX. Currently your championship leader, but needs to have a few good results. Came out swinging early in the season and has just been on the back foot since about the halfway point. A large championship lead, but it will not take very long for that margin to fall. Prieto is unable to scrape together a few more high-scoring positions throughout the rest of the season. Prieto still the leader, once again by a good margin. But one bad result followed up with a win from Aramich or your mom or Trixit could really close that championship right back up. Aramich, the current top threat, who I believe has not set a lap time in qualifying, or not in qualifying, in this free practice session yet. We pull up the live timing. Aramich, yes, has not set a lap time in the Aston Martin. Is out on track, and we may see a lap time coming soon. Could possibly have a lap time confirmed on the timing board when Aramich comes out of the final corner. Going out onto the curb will be a bit tricky. Goes P11, still no one able to challenge the time set by Tycho Path, but Prieto in the NSX has at least closed the gap up under 0.3 of a second, knocking Trixit down to P3. Again, these lap times not so indicative of the actual pace that we will see throughout the race. Ormiston in the pit lane, your reigning champion from Season 3. Not quite having the same results here in Season 4, currently sitting P6 in the standings. And it is a tight race in the AM Championship. Manelli, looking to see where Manelli is. Currently P3 in AM, but again, a large margin to fill between himself and the current provisional pole sitter and current AM pole sitter of Tycho Path, who is up there at the very top of the board currently with the fastest time of the session. And just a bit too far outside of the track limits at turn 10 is going to invalidate this lap. Likely is going to let the Mustang of Powder Giant by. Well, we shall see. Or maybe Powder Giant just wanting to tuck in behind. The Mustang will still have very much a speed advantage compared to the Ferrari, but the Mustang of Powder Giant pulls into the pit lane. And Manelli going to abandon this lap and also return to the pit lane. Prieto still trying to close that gap, or we'll see. Possibly Prieto just not really trying to bring much pace. There has been talk throughout the league drivers in regards to practice this week that there may have been some sandbagging between a few of the drivers. Nothing is confirmed, but it would not surprise me. Don't want to run your best lap in practice. And also, don't necessarily want to show your pace. A practice pit stop from Prieto goes well, and he will just return to the pit lane. Tychopath still top of the board. A bit of a wiggle into turn one. Definitely seems to be pushing for pace. Coming down around turn three. Usually a lot of curb usage here at Barcelona, but with that wet weather introduced, you're going to have a lot of puddling right around those curbs, and especially onto those curbs. They're very, very slick. You're not going to want to spend much time on them whatsoever, but a few of our drivers do seem to be a bit brave in using those curbs. Up through turn 8. Still very brave on the curb usage, but I can only imagine that the steering wheel goes a touch light throughout those sections of track, and then screaming down the backstretch towards turn 10. Pulling right up onto the rear of the Mustang. Is that the Mustang of Bradzilla? Yes, that is the Mustang of Bradzilla, number 14. Few minutes left to go, just a couple more laps to go. And into the chicane just before the final turn goes Tychopath, possibly finding some improvement on this lap. We shall see. Across the line, not going to be any improvement. The track is getting a bit wetter. It will continue to have some more precipitation onto the racing surface throughout the duration of the session, only really starting to round down after the session will be over. Now, weather in qualifying can definitely make things interesting. We do get a short forecast in qualifying to see what exactly conditions we will be contending with. And if it's a slight mist into rain at the end of the session, I can guarantee you that those AM drivers are going to try and get out there first. They will be out there first, but try and get out of the pit lane and get a fast lap put in before the moisture increases. Our pro drivers not really going to have much of a choice. They do go second. It is the same session. But again, it is a split qualifying, 20-minute qualifying session, 10 minutes for our AM drivers, 10 minutes for our pro drivers. And Trixit finding some time may possibly have an improvement here. And a big slide from the Mustang up ahead. That's the 333. I believe that is the 333 of Cabe. And yes, it is. Going around and across the nose of Trixit, that's going to invalidate the lap, or cause Trixit to invalidate that lap. It's going to disrupt this next lap, as he's not going to carry the same amount of speed across the line. And if there was any improvement from Trixit there, that is completely thrown away. Phoenix Gecko, newcomer, promoted into pro very, very quickly after joining GoFAST Racing debut last week at Spa, but was caught up in that nasty turn lap 1 incident at the about halfway down the Kimmel Straight. And Phoenix will be hoping for a much better and much cleaner result here tonight at Barcelona. Again, race number 8 of the GoFAST Racing Season 4 GT3 season. Just a couple races to go before we round out this championship and crown another champion. It's looking to have to be a miracle situation for our reigning champion of Ormiston to try and bring another outstanding performance and be crowned champion once again. I don't think it is going to happen. Prieto, with a large lead, was very much in contention with Ormiston throughout the first half of Season 3. Here in Season 4, has had much more of a dominant presence, and Ormiston has not quite been up there in the finishing standings, but already has one championship, may be stepping aside and allowing someone else to claim the crown. Just a few seconds left in free practice. Some of our drivers will have another lap to go for. Bradzilla across the line will have another lap. Is not going to take it though. Your mom will be the first driver to cross the line and officially be done with practice. Next across the line is the 39, the 24 of Brute also across the line, the 39 of Griffith P25, the 91 of Phoenix stays P5. And just at the end of free practice, a few of our drivers, actually quite a large amount of our drivers, have not brought a time across the line. Mac Marbles goes P27. Prieto, with the weather rounding down, is going to hop into the pit lane. A practice pit stop and pushing a bit too hard. They say you can't know where the limit is. You can't ride the limit without first going over it, and I think Prieto has gone over the limit there. Guzman in the Ferrari, a big slide coming out of turn 15 across the line. Stays P13, the 334 of Peach in the Porsche. Again, a little bit of a slide through the final corner across the line, P16. Marvy in the BMW. Across the line, currently P21, stays P21. The 83s, that's going to bring it into the session. And now we await our AM field, and now it is going to be rain decreasing throughout the session. Tycho Path does eventually get rolling quite a bit of spray. We will see who is going to be able to get out front. Tycho Path probably not going to be too happy about being stuck in the spray of the number 33 up ahead. That is the 33 of Devin Lingard. And Devin Lingard may be allowing Tycho Path to go. That right-hand turn signal telling Tycho Path pass on the right-hand side. And into turn 4 they go. Tycho Path was on pole throughout practice. We'll see if Tycho Path can hold on to it. As of right now, out front of the pack, one outlap around for the entire AM field. And as long as Tycho Path stays up front, gets those tires somewhat up to temperature, they are going to be out on full wets. I don't think anyone will be out there on slicks. I wouldn't recommend it if they were. And Tycho Path should be the first to set the pace for the AM field to beat. Benelli in the Ferrari back into the pack, the top contender for Tycho Path in this AM championship. I think is starting to build a bit of a gap to the number 127 up ahead. Sorry, the 427 of Nate, who should be just ahead. Yes, he is. Benelli trying to build a gap before they get into the chicane. And Tycho Path going to go for it flat out. This is the first flying lap of the AM qualifying session. Through turn 3, floating it nice and wide to the outside, wants to ride the outside curb. Gets right on it, but don't want to overstep. 1, you don't want to invalidate the lap. 2, you don't want to be pushing too hard on that slick painted curb. That would send you right on around. Is that going to be an invalidation there at turn 7 and 8? Did seem like he overstepped just a little bit too far across the inside curb. We'll see if it stays valid though. Down the back straight, running towards turn 10. This section very, very tricky in the wet. You really want to use those curbs on the inside and outside. But they are very, very treacherous. Tycho Path being a bit safe with the curb usage, doesn't really want to touch the inside curbs at the chicane and out of the final corner. This has been a trouble spot for many drivers and very, very wide for Tycho Path. That is going to invalidate the lap there. So Tycho Path has to go for another lap. We will see who will set the pace for the Anfield. Schwartz goes P1 in AM. Stolowski is out there, but I believe Stolowski may be out in Pro early. Michael D in the Mercedes goes fastest at 53.930. Sierra P2 in the Lexus. In those AM standings, Sierra, I believe, is in P3. Sorry, Sierra has actually been dropped down to P5. Nate is currently in P3, and Nate currently P6 tonight. Benelli currently P11 and wants to open a gap to the rest of the field. Does not want to try and catch them, wants some clean air, but as at the same time as wanting clean air, wants clean visibility. Very much spray out there. If you are stuck in a pack of cars, it's going to be hard to see the track or the cars in front of you. So we will go on board with one of those drivers up ahead. We'll actually go on board with Chandler. Who is just a little bit further ahead. We may go on board Tycho Path does go P1, 51.950, and well into P1, 1.6 seconds the margin back to Sierra, who is currently P2 in AM, and Tycho Path is pushing for that lap, wants to be as far up the order as possible. Throughout practice, we didn't see any pros that were directly competing for that pole position, and Tycho Path pushing that McLaren 720S GT3. You can see the rear end stepping out all over the place, and this will make things a bit interesting. The fastest laps for this AM session will likely come at the very end as the rain is continuing to decrease. Tycho Path at this rate will have 2 more laps. We'll be able to finish this one, get another one in, and then have 1 more lap to go. We'll go on board with the 222. Sorry, that is Stolowski. But anyway, we'll still go on board. But has pulled over and allowed some traffic to go past. So maybe we'll just wait for the pro session before we get a sense of the spray. We'll definitely have a sense of that spray throughout the race, especially at the very beginning. It's going to be hard to see. That is one piece of the puzzle that makes pole position a bit more crucial. Tycho Path once again understeer outside of the track limits. That's going to invalidate that lap even if it was faster, and Tycho Path definitely pushing but just unable to find the bite from the front wheels. Devin Lingard goes P2 in AM. Scroll goes P3. Devin Lingard finding some great pace in the AM field as we do see our pros start to queue up at the end of the pit lane. I believe that was Aramich in the number 9 all the way out at the front, and can't quite see him, but I believe it is, and I think Prieto lined up right behind. There's a McLaren back in there as well. Couldn't exactly get eyes of who was in that McLaren. But Devin Lingard, P2 in AM would be a great showing from Devin Lingard tonight, and has definitely found some pace here with the weather at Barcelona. Could very well see Devin Lingard the possibility to get up there and finish on the AM podium. Tycho Path will have one more lap, and it will be his best shot at the fastest lap in AM. It's very unlikely that he will have the fastest lap in the session, and a bit too deep on the brakes into the chicane. That's going to eat up a lot of time. We'll see if Tycho Path is still able to find an improvement. The AMs are going to be at a bit of a disadvantage compared to the pros, as the pro session will be drying, and no, not an improvement on that lap. He will have one more shot though, as 15 seconds away from pros being released. The gates are about to drop. 3/4 of a second off of Tycho Path is Devin Lingard. Found about half a second on that last lap. We'll see how much more he is able to find. And as the clock strikes 10 minutes, the clock strikes 0 for AMs, and our pro field rolls out of the pit lane, but they do have to yield to our AM field, who will be, for the most part, ending their qualifying sessions. Devin Lingard stays P2 for now. Michael D is P3 for now. Manelli P4 in AM. The number 51 of Leclerc across the line, pushing all the way out to the outside track limit. Goes P4, knocks Manelli down to P5. The 427 of Nate goes up to P13. The 333 of Cabe, currently P18. Out of the final corner, pushing for some time. What will it be? P14 for Cabe. The number 23 of Nightwalker. Sorry, Mac Marbles. My bad. Nightwalker is in the 12. My bad. Number 23 of Mac Marbles in the Porsche out of the final corner. And across the line, currently P7 goes up to P3, knocks Manelli down another spot. And Manelli in a must-win situation tonight. Tycho Path across the line one more time to try and buy some improvement, and finds a ton of time. The track is improving, but almost a second down. A 151.950 to a 151.097. And now it is a lot more work for the AM field. But Devin Lingard, the standout in AM, goes P2. Mac Marbles in P3 as our pro field is now started with their qualifying session. Aramich leads the pro field across the line and will be the first to set the pace for the pro field as long as this lap is valid. track is also going to be improving. So maybe you don't really push for your lap until the very end of qualifying, as our fastest lap should be coming at the end of qualifying. But we don't know how much the track will develop, but it is definitely going to be a faster track than the AM field had, which should introduce a bit of a class split, but we'll see where that puts Tychopath. Again, the rain is decreasing. It's still going to be wet, and I don't think we will get out of wet conditions, not in 7 minutes, no. But we do have a very good chance of variable conditions throughout the race. Could start out wet, could start out dry, transitioning to wet, transition back to dry. It's a 45-minute race, 1 pit stop mandatory, and plenty of time for all sorts of antics. We've seen passes in the pit lane. We've seen passes by not going into the pit lane. We've seen leaders drop the lead all on their own. We'll see what Aramich is able to do here. Coming down into the chicane. Nice and tidy on the brakes. Navigating through the chicane, very tidy. Out of the final corner, not oversteering or understeering off into the sand trap, and it's 0.26 behind Tychopath. So currently still on pole is Tychopath. Prieto now less than a tenth behind Tychopath, and things maybe not looking so bright for Tychopath in holding on to the overall pole position. And there we go, Ouroboros had it for a second, but 18 thousandths of a second faster goes Guzman in the Ferrari at 150.877. Now the time to beat in pro, held by Guzman. I think this is possibly going to be the first time that Guzman has sat on pole, if he can hold it for the next 5.5 minutes. Thank you all for tuning in. GoFast Racing qualifying, absolutely can't always say it's the best part of the night, but never fails to amaze. Always a great showing here with GoFast Racing. Bit of a side note, the fastest league on console between both Xbox and PlayStation. If you're looking to compete with the top talent on console here on Assetto Corsa Competizione, the best place to do it is going to be here at GoFast Racing. You can join the Discord. The link will be in the Twitch chat. And if you are enjoying the broadcast, please hit that follow button. We just hit 500 followers. Thank you to everyone who had made that possible. And I hope that we can continue to move on to another milestone. Your mom in the 71 McLaren, invalidated, has not improved. Aramich at 150.807 went fastest, but then Prieto goes faster. And again, as the session goes on, the lap times are going to continue to drop as the rain will quit by the end of the session. It's still going to be very wet, but there's not going to be any moisture added. You can definitely see a drier line starting to develop on track. I don't think we're going to have enough time to transition into damp conditions, but we are definitely going to be improving nonetheless. Trixit knocks a teammate of Aramich down to P2. I think when it comes down to it, Trixit would allow the teammate of Aramich to compete for the lead. Again, Aramich and Prieto, the top two contenders in this Pro Championship fight. And while Trixit, I'm sure, would enjoy a victory, there may be a bit of team orders for the overarching championship to try and help Aramich get the best result tonight. Tychopath knocked down to P8, but still quite a large amount of the pro field between himself and his next contender. That will be Devin Lingard in P2, but a long way to go. Currently the top 13 in this field, separated by less than 1 second. The last time we were here at Barcelona, granted it was in the dry, the top 25 were separated by 1 second, but with varying conditions and split qualifying, we may see a bit of a different story. Aramich trying to find improvement to get back up on pole, and does so by over 0.2 of a second, a 150.417 from Aramich, but immediately taken back from Prieto. And if this isn't a metaphor for this championship, I don't know what else is. Prieto taking away everything from Aramich, but Ouroboros takes it away from the teammate first to drop down into the 49s, a 49.950 from Ouroboros. And all of these drivers that are just now crossing the line will have another shot at a flying lap. And as the session goes on, the laps will continue to drop in time as the conditions improve. Ormiston goes P6. Number 27 of Yakashokas goes P21. The 10 of Ketu in the NSX only goes P15. We've seen Ketu at the top of the order. I'm unsure if we will see Ketu back up there tonight, but it is still very possible. It's actually been knocked down to P16. Phoenix Gecko still yet to bring a lap to the fold, and I believe is the only pro driver who has yet to set a valid lap. But some varied conditions seemingly making that a bit of a struggle. This is going to be Phoenix Gecko's final attempt at a lap. But look at that driver count, 44 drivers. Every race throughout this season has had over 40 drivers entered. And this is Ouroboros and the 20 of Douglas. Douglas getting his debut pro win just a few weeks ago at Laguna Seca, and Ouroboros getting a bit of the tow, but it's not going to be an improvement. Has about 30 seconds left to go. Douglas pulls over to the side and allows Ouroboros to go on past. Prieto will try and take the pole position back from the teammate, and Aramich will try and steal it all away from the team. Ormiston goes P3 with just a couple seconds left to go. And has Slapshot made it across? Was that Slapshot or your mom? I believe that was Slapshot. Yakashokas goes P22, Zoanon P41. Ketu up to P4. The 62 of Francisco P18, Dingham P19. Again, Yakashokas down to P23. The 91, if I can find the 91, where is the 91? Why am I blanking? Phoenix Gecko goes on pole, fastest to 49.660. And the debut pro race was an AM last week in his GFR debut that bumped him up to pro based on pace and steals the pole position away. Giant goes P10. Aramich will try and take it back, but has been knocked down all the way to P6. Has Phoenix Gecko just played the conditions to his best? Aramich across the line takes that pole position back, steals it away from Phoenix Gecko. Is Prieto going to take it away from Aramich? No, 58 thousandths of a second separate the two. Next across the line, the 39 of Griffith goes P11, and then the 3 of Ouroboros goes P3. How fitting. Tricks it, P5. The 21 of Platypus goes P6. The number 128 of Goose Slayer across the line, what'll it be? Currently P13 stays P13. The 20 of Douglas into the pit lane will not improve. Same with the 11 of Salinas. The 334 of Peach needs quite a large margin to improve. Currently P22 goes and stays P22. Well, it's Aramich on pole. Prieto got up to P2 right there at the very end. Phoenix Gecko was on pole but got knocked down to P4. It's Aramich on pole. So let me not hit the wrong button. Aramich, Prieto, Ouroboros, Phoenix Gecko, Trixit, Platypus, Ormiston, Ketu, Griffith, Douglas, Guzman, Giant, Goose Slayer, Salinas, Slapshot, Langley, Marvy, Tychopath, Brute, Francisco, Dingham, Your Mom, Yakashokus, Ricky Bobby, Devin Lingard, Mac Marbles, Michael D. Leclerc, Manelli, Scroll, Stolowski, Sierra, Bradzilla, Shuby, Nightwalker, Nate, Cabe, Elmo, Schwartz, Peachy, Zoanam, Chandler, and Prophet. I believe we did lose one driver there at the end, and in AM, Tychopath on pole, Devin Lingard P2, the standout performance from the new driver to GoFAST Racing. Mac Marbles P3, Michael D P4, Leclerc P5, Manelli P6, Scroll P7, Sierra P8, Bradzilla P9, Shuby P10, Nightwalker P11, Nate P12, Cabe P13, Elmo P14, Schwartz P15, Peachy P16, Chandler P17, and Prophet P18. We'll take a short break so we don't have any ads throughout the race. Thank you all for tuning in, and if you would like to get rid of ads, the best way to do so is going to be to subscribe to the Twitch channel. So for those of you who are subscribed, we will just go silent for a moment. And thank you all for tuning in. It's definitely looking to be a good race, and we have had quite a few standout performances. See if anybody's tuned in on YouTube. YouTube stream should be going, and yes it is. Thank you to those of you who are tuned in on YouTube. Just a couple of you probably watching on a TV, but I appreciate it from everyone. And remember, for those of you who are subscribed or maybe not seeing an ad right now, all races are streamed on YouTube at the same time as Twitch, so if you would like to watch it on the big screen post-race, you can definitely go and do so. About a minute 20 seconds left on the ad, and we will be back with coverage shortly after that. Should also be rolling with the formation lap around that time as well. But the reason that I run these ads is so new people joining don't get pre-roll ads throughout the race. I'm trying to minimize ads overall, so if I do it in the breaks in between either practice and qualifying or qualifying and the race, that means that nobody gets ads throughout the duration of the race if anyone new was to join. Try and get some more faces into GoFAST Racing and get a bit more of a broader scope of viewership. Engines are fired, and we're about to be back live here in just a moment. Welcome back to those of you who had an ad, and we are rolling with the formation lap. And as of right now, it's going to be a dry start, about as good of a start as we could have had, but the track is green. So while it may be a dry track, it is going to be a fresh track, no rubber laid down. But at the same time, we don't have any rain in the near forecast. There is a possibility that we don't have any rain throughout the race at all, but I can guarantee you all eyes will be watching that little forecast bubble in the top right-hand corner of the screen. You can see the forecast out 3 minutes and then out 10 minutes. A 45-minute race with a mandatory pit stop for both fuel and tires. No one knew exactly what the weather situation would be until we got to this point. Well, here we are, green track, no rubber down. It is a bit warm, but there is no rain in the immediate forecast, which should allow our drivers to race close at the beginning of this race and get a bit more spread out. The weather will be less chaotic whenever it does come, if it does eventually start to rain. And to what degree of rain, we don't exactly know. We don't have any sun coming out. The furthest ahead we can see is 10 minutes. Few standouts to watch in this race. Phoenix Gecko, the GoFAST Racing newcomer, had pole position for just a small amount of time, but up to P4 in Pro. We'll see if the dry pace will translate over to the wet pace. And in AM, currently leading his little pack of AM drivers, about 6 of them behind. Mac Marbles, Michael D, Leclerc, Manelli, and Scroll, all more tenured GoFAST Racing drivers. Devin Lingard with his best qualifying result of the season, P2 in AM, looking for a podium position tonight. Prieto will be trying to take that pole position, or take that lead away from Aramich. Actually, I believe Prieto did not steal it right at the end. Aramich did have it and will have the inside, but Prieto is right there behind. Phoenix Gecko in P4, and then Ouroboros. Aramich is surrounded by Animus Racing Pacifica drivers. And 2 rows back is going to be Aramich's teammate of Trixit. We'll see if the teammates work together here as we approach the start-finish line, awaiting the green flag. Championship contenders on the front row. How is it all going to pan out? Green, green, green. We are racing here at Barcelona. Race number 8. Trixit wants to go up the inside of Ouroboros, but Prieto gets a much better start than Aramich in the Aston Martin, and they swap sides of the track. Is Aramich going to find a way around the outside? He wants to go for it. Yes, he does, but no trouble behind. Ketu around, and is the sole car involved in that incident there has gone around. I believe the stewards may be looking at that one, but Aramich has taken the lead of the race back. Phoenix Gecko trying to hold on to P3. And the number 83 of Chandler, I believe, started from the pit lane, gets a 30-second stop-and-go penalty. It is Aramich, Prieto, and Phoenix, your top 3. Ouroboros and Platypus rounding out the top 5. I had to wait for the timing boards to update, but yes, Trixit down into P6. Has Ormiston attacking behind, and Ormiston in the Mustang will have a very, very good run down the straight. Phoenix Gecko being a bit aggressive early, flashing the lights on the championship leader. I think Prieto may be thinking, hey buddy, you're a bit new here. We'll see what you can do. Phoenix Gecko with an outstanding performance in this qualifying tonight. We'll see what he can bring to the competition. Aramich will lead the first lap after a dramatic first couple turns between the 2 championship contenders. Aramich will try and to grow his lead throughout. What has happened to Devin Lingard? Down a few positions and is being pushed out, is now back behind the 222 of Stolowski, goes off into the gravel. And is that going to be Nightwalker going past? Yes, it is, with help from the BMW of Shuby. The top 3 starting to break away from the rest of the field. Aramich, Prieto, and Phoenix Gecko. Again, Phoenix Gecko, newcomer, who has a front row seat to what is not necessarily going to be the championship fight tonight, but is going to be Aramich trying to close the margin on Prieto and put himself in a position to go for the championship heading into the final round in 2 weeks' time. Do have 2 more rounds left in this season, round 9 next week and then round 10, the season finale. Giant with Slapshot in tow, trying to close up onto the teammate of the race leader in Trixit. Still no sign of any wet weather. The track is going to continue to improve until then. A bit of a bite of the curb there coming out of the exit of the chicane. That's not only going to allow Aramich to pull away, but that'll put Phoenix Gecko, who now takes the fastest lap of the race, into a bit of an overtaking range on Prieto into turn 1. He's not quite close enough to go for it, but Prieto under attack by the newcomer. We'll see if Phoenix Gecko can live up to the reputation that he is starting to display for himself here. Definitely showing some pace early. And when you look at a run like this from a newcomer, you think, well, maybe we are looking at a future champion here in Phoenix Gecko. Swinging right up there with the heavy hitters. And it doesn't seem to be punching up so much as he is right in his weight class. We'll see if he can contend with Prieto and Aramich. Very, very consistent drivers, Prieto and Aramich. We'll see if Phoenix Gecko is able to hang on to those two up ahead. Another trio has developed here. We've actually got kind of the rule of 3s here, going back to the top 9. Aramich, Prieto, and Phoenix Gecko, all 3 together. Ouroboros, Platypus, and Ormiston together. Now we have Giant, Trixit, and Slapshot. Giant, Trixit, and Slapshot, these 3, very much a lot of talent concentrated between these 3 cars. A lot of talent in this top 10. Goose Slayer with the Mustang of Salinas behind, and still no sight of that potential weather. Should be coming at some point, but we don't know exactly when or if it will come. I think Salinas maybe did not get the best run out of the final corner and is not really going to be in much of contention for the position down the front straight. Langley with a bit of an issue and possibly a retirement for the Mustang driver. Has Aramich made a mistake? Is Prieto under attack from Phoenix Gecko? Again, very, very tight between these 3. And let's go on board with the newcomer and watch this battle from behind in P3. Steering wheel trying to chase these 2 up the hill before we get to the right-hander of turn 9. As long as Phoenix can stay here within the slipstream of those 2, they are battling close enough to each other that it will start to slow them down. Phoenix Gecko may be able to ride behind, save tires, save a bit of fuel. Now that gap is starting to open up, and Ouroboros has broken free of Platypus in the Mercedes behind. Ormiston has taken that fastest lap now and is looking to find a way past the Mercedes driver. Ormiston all over the rear bumper of Platypus. I'm surprised they didn't make contact between each other there. Close proximity, I think, did force Ormiston to have to check up at corner exit, and the gap grows slightly. Phoenix Gecko has a real threat behind him, and that is going to be the sister Ferrari of Ouroboros. And Ouroboros trying to get up there with Prieto and help the teammate in trying to take that lead away from Aramich. Aramich and Prieto both are very comfortable just running in each other's slipstream, as they will continue to do so. They could do so for the entire duration of the race, not have to go into the pit lane, and they would be one behind the other pretty much for the entire duration. Now, they may swap positions once or twice, but both of those two leaders very, very consistent. We'll see what Phoenix Gecko has a bit wide through turn 9. And Prieto starting to have a bit of a look on the race leader. I think the NSX may have a bit of a speed advantage, especially in the slipstream coming down the backstretch. But the Aston Martin does seem to have a little bit of a handling advantage through the more technical sections of Sector 1 and Sector 3. Sector 3 very, very dependent on handling, and Aramich with a bit of a clatter over the curbs. Is that going to open the door for Prieto? Down the pit straight. Let's go on board with Prieto, and Aramich wants to break that toe. The NSX is cruising up alongside. Is he going to go for the move? Aramich just holds station, very, very stoic in his defense, and will force Prieto to try and have an adventurous move around the outside, but nowhere to go. Aramich parks that Aston Martin right in the center of the track, and Prieto forced to sit idly behind, and that is going to bring Phoenix right back into this fight as well. And if Phoenix starts to press on the aggression against Prieto, that is just going to help Aramich start to pull away. If you are able to get Prieto to start to look backwards in that mirror, which I believe Prieto can drive with eyes in the back of his head. If you're able to start to maybe pull at a few strings, press a button here or there, you may be able to find a way past. But as of right now, no, Prieto doubling down, pushing harder and harder to try and catch up to the race leader, as they are all starting to catch up to some lap traffic. I believe this is going to be the 83 of Chandler. And welcome in, Marshall. Always glad to see some drivers from the endurance races that I stream, which, by the way, endurance racing season about to get started up, just a couple weeks away from the Rolex 24. And then I believe a week after the Rolex 24, we have the Bathurst 12-hour, which also gives us the duels at Daytona, as Speed Weeks is going to be starting this week. Aramich able to get past Chandler. Prieto forced onto an awkward line. That's very much going to grow the gap. But now Phoenix Gecko right behind and well into the slipstream. Is Phoenix going to go for an overtake here into turn 1? Pulls Prieto to the inside and tries to sling it around the outside. They rub doors through turn 1, and Prieto not going to be very happy about that one. Still door to door. Prieto holds on to the position, and now with some backup comes Ouroboros into turn 3. Says, hey, you're not going to rough up my teammate up there. How about I take that position away from you? You're not welcome here. As we'll see if Phoenix is able to punch back and try and earn his claim, fight for his seat at the bar, as he is the newcomer and he is definitely being shown the ropes tonight. Phoenix is not going to back down without a fight, though. Prieto and Ouroboros, both unstoppable talents together. It is very, very common to see both of them on the podium as long as they can make it through the race clean. And Phoenix Gecko is disrupting the autonomy between these two, especially being the newcomer. But I think Phoenix is going to be a threat to stay. Going a little bit further behind Ormiston and Platypus, continuing to just lap together as they will go around the Mustang of Chandler. Let's go a bit further back. Your mom in P12 with the McLaren of Griffith behind. And check in on the AM fight. Tycho Pass still in the lead in AM. Manelli has found his way up to P2. And will be scoring some good points in that AM field as long as he can hold on to his position for the time being or for the rest of the session. Mac Marvel's immediately behind though. And Devin Lingard down to P6 in AM. Did start P2 in his best qualifying of the season and I believe of his career with GoFAST Racing, but we'll see if he's able to bring home the podium. Definitely possible as he's not far behind the rest of that AM field. But no, a bit of a commentator's curse there as he overcooks it into turn one and loses the rear. Again, Phoenix applying the aggression onto Prieto and still is fighting for his seat at the bar. And great stuff here between our top four. Aramich is starting to pull away slightly. And again, the newcomer, as Ouroboros goes for a very, very late move. Phoenix Gecko says, no, I don't think so. Pulls the old perfect switcheroo into turn 10. Very, very aggressive from Phoenix, but made it work. But at the same time, that is Ouroboros pulling Phoenix off of the teammate of Prieto. Could have been some very masterclass teamwork there. Have Ouroboros send it a bit late. That move was never going to work. But it did force Phoenix off of the main racing line, and that will allow Prieto to focus his efforts back onto the race leader of Aramich. Battle here between Ouroboros and Phoenix. We'll see if Ouroboros is close enough into turn one. No, I don't think so. And as they come into turns 2 and 3, it is now going to be a battle for P3 between Ouroboros and Phoenix. Very, very hard to overtake throughout Sector 1 and 2. Just not much of an opportunity. Your best opportunity comes right at the very beginning of Sector 3. And I believe the plan is working flawlessly. Phoenix has been pulled well off of Prieto, and Prieto is starting to close the gap to Aramich just up ahead. But we've got an absolutely elbows out battle here between Phoenix and Ouroboros. Phoenix giving us an awesome show. If there are any other drivers that you would like me to specifically check on, make sure that you say something in the chat. Otherwise, this battle here for P3 is absolutely astonishing. And the battle for the lead will continue as well. Hold on, a bit of a development. What has happened to Tychopath? Has Tychopath had an incident or gone into the pit lane, or have we lost Tychopath? I believe it is a possibility that we lost Tychopath. And that would promote Manelli into the race lead for the AM class. Prieto extending all the way out to the outside of the track limits into turn 1. And nose to tail, they continue. Aramich and Prieto, clash of the titans. This is your battle, not only for P1 and P2 in this race, but P1 and P2 in the overall championship. The race leader now catching up to the pro driver in the BMW of Francisco. Slapshot in P10, and Slap Your Mom Racing not having quite the standout performance they are usually known for. We usually see both of these drivers well into the top 10. As of right now, they are just hovering in that top 10. Prieto, very, very aggressive, has caught up to the Aston Martin of Aramich and is now trying to find a way past Phoenix Gecko in a similar situation with Ouroboros immediately on the rear bumper. As they come into the chicane again, nose to tail. does start to beg the question, when do they come into the pit lane? When one comes in, does the other follow? Does the other stay out? Is it going to be an undercut from Prieto? Is Prieto going to try and catch Aramich out? Is Aramich going to come early to prevent the undercut? If Aramich comes in early, does Prieto stay out? Battle just behind between Phoenix and Ouroboros. Again, I think the Animus Racing plan did work, as Phoenix Gecko has been pulled well off of the two race leaders and locked in this tight battle with Ouroboros. Has 100% pulled him away from that battle for the lead, which again continues well through Sector 2. And there is the rain. Rain coming in 10 minutes. And Brute, who I think wanted to come in early and go on a separate strategy, is likely going to have to come back in or deal with the consequences and stay out on slicks. Prieto, side by side, the leaders make contact. Is Prieto going to take that opportunity there for the lead? No, he is not. Similar situation behind, side by side, door to door between Phoenix and Ouroboros. As they come around turn 12, Phoenix keeps it ahead in the lead. Ouroboros does just have a bumper behind as they come down into the chicane. If Ouroboros is not able to get past, that will force both of them to kind of line back up and reset the field between the two. And now Aramich, after that contact between himself and Prieto, is well out and in the lead. Bit further behind between Phoenix and Ouroboros. Does Ouroboros want to go for it? Yes, he does. He's not quite close enough, but he does force Phoenix off of the racing line. Will that allow Ouroboros to carry more speed and find a way past into turn 3? No, I don't think so. Also, you do have the conversation with the pit lane. Do you come in and immediately go on to wets if you can't see the forecast continuing? As of right now, the forecast is continuing for more rain. The rain is going to increase in intensity in 10 minutes. So say the rain starts in about 8 minutes, the rain will be increasing in 10. We may very well see a full wet session, but you're going to want to wait and come out as late as possible. Go as long on those slicks as you can, even if it means you may have to go through a bit of a damp condition on slicks. Tight running here between Trixit and Slapshot. Who is that in between the two? It is a McLaren. It is not the McLaren of Peachy. Tycho Path has rejoined the session, but is going to be as well outside of that lead that he was in. The clouds are starting to come back and cover the track. Prieto now 0.8 of a second behind Ouroboros. Still within slipstream of Phoenix Gecko, but I think the lap traffic has allowed Phoenix to kind of pull away slightly, but no. I think Ouroboros may be running a bit more of a low downforce setup as he is massively recovering that lost track position and is right back onto the rear bumper of Phoenix. Could possibly be that Phoenix did not get the best run out of the final corner. Car number 69 of Profit gets a drive-through penalty for speeding in track limits, and Mac Marbles gets a 30-second stop and go for speeding in pit lane, which I believe he is serving now. Goose Slayer comes into the pit lane. Shuby also comes into the pit lane. These two battles for P1 and P2 and then P3 and P4 have been absolutely exhilarating the entire night. And we are far from over. We have weather to throw into the mix. We have pit stops to throw into the mix. And more than likely, they're both going to be at the exact same time. We have some drivers who have come into the pit lane right at the halfway point on their pit strategy. Are they going to come out on slicks or are they going to come out on wet tires? Phoenix, a bit of a bad run through turn 10, but it's not enough for Ouroboros to capitalize. Prieto closing up onto the rear of Aramich. Cloud cover almost completely covering the track, as we are going to start some cooling as this weather moves in. Car number 35 gets a 30-second stop and go for speeding in pit lane. That is going to be the BMW of Shuby in Am. Ouroboros comes into the pit lane. Platypus comes into the pit lane. Are they going to come out on wets early? Are they going to try and hold out on slicks until the end? It looks to be rain from here for the foreseeable future. The rain is coming shortly. We'll be here in about 2 laps time. But for the time being, Phoenix out all on his own. And now it is time for Phoenix to put his head down. The 2 leaders up ahead are battling amongst each other. So we see a big shoot of flames come out of the exhaust pipes of that Aston Martin. And again, the clash of the Titans continues. Prieto versus Aramich. Phoenix Gecko just a little bit behind in P3, but Ormison, the reigning champion, there's a reason he's got number 1 on that car, has some clean air, and Ormison with clean air, I think Phoenix may be about to learn, is a terrifying sight behind. As when Ormison is on it, he is on it. But Phoenix may have an ace under his sleeve. We did see a very, very good showing in a wet qualifying. May have a bit of a privy to the weather. Phoenix may just be waiting for that rain to come. Prieto comes into the pit lane and is likely going to come out on wets. Has Aramich timed it perfectly. Is a little over 1 lap away from rain. Rain is coming, rain within 3 minutes. The rain will be increasing, and it looks like it's going to be wet from here to the end. Aramich all on his own, Phoenix all on his own, but there is Ormiston closing up behind him. A touch of understeer coming through turn 1 and 2. And now Phoenix has some lap traffic to deal with. It is going to be the McLaren up ahead. Is that the McLaren of Profit? Yes, it is. Few drivers have already come into the pit lane. You wonder what kind of tires they're on. Platypus out ahead of Ouroboros. Prieto rolling out of the pit lane as Ricky Bobby comes into the pit lane. Cave also comes into the pit lane. And where is Prieto going to come out? It's a perfectly timed stop from Prieto out in clean air, clean traffic. The 35 of Shuby clears the 30-second stop and go penalty. And Aramich likely going to come in at the end of this lap. He has to come in for a pit stop. All drivers must serve a mandatory pit stop. Trixit with a slap shot immediately behind. Trixit also trying to catch, or no, not trying to catch. That is the Ferrari of Douglas, who has already come into the pit lane. And Aramich staying out for another lap. And I wonder what the strategy is here. The rain is decreasing within 10 minutes. We may actually see the rain completely go away by the end of the session. And no, the rain is actually going to stay, so it'll be a hard shower before it goes to drizzle. Salinas comes into the pit lane. Prieto the furthest ahead of our drivers who have come into pit. Salinas in the pit lane. Marvey also comes into the pit lane. Phoenix Gecko yet to come in, but when Phoenix comes into the pit lane, is he going to have any help? He does have Ormiston behind, who is starting to gain. And no, the rain is going to go away in 10 minutes. It doesn't mean that it will be gone for the rest of the session. But But now we have quite a few different pit strategies at play. Your race leader, Aramich, yet to come in. Prieto came in, I believe, 2 laps prior. Is Aramich going to try and outlast on slicks and outlast the pit lane margin? Number 11 of Salinas, a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for speeding in pit lane, had come out very far ahead in the order as the rain has begun. It will take a minute for the track to get damp, but it does not take long to immediately degrade the track conditions as we are immediately dropped down from optimum conditions to fast. And Aramich comes into the pit lane right when the rain is starting. Phoenix Gecko follows suit. And maybe these two will be able to help each other out with their race pace just a little bit if they can get within each other's slipstream range. This is going to be the one to watch. Prieto currently P15 as we have more drivers coming into the pit lane. Aramich in the pit lane, Phoenix in the pit lane, Slapshot and Your Mom come in the pit lane on a team strategy. They'll double stack. Dingham in the pit lane, Stolowski, Yakashokas in the pit lane. Manelli stays out. Ormiston stays out, which is no surprise for those of you who have been around for quite some time. Ormiston does not really like to come into the pit lane very much, and slicks are still the tire to be on. The track is not fully wet, and if we do see fully wet, I don't know how long it will be. We'll see if Ormiston possibly able to pull a blinder. Tricks it up the hill. The number 91 of Phoenix Gecko, oh no, gets a 30-second stop and go penalty for speeding in pit lane. Had the podium position lined up and is now going to have to relinquish his position. We'll try and race a touch more against Ouroboros, as Ouroboros did get the pit stop through and done, and he'll at least try to inconvenience Ouroboros as much as possible. He says, well, if I'm going to come out, I'm still going to race. And race he will. Zoanam, a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for speeding in pit lane. Where has Aramich come out? No, it's been the undercut from Prieto. Prieto on fresher tires, but with such a short race, it does not really matter. Ormiston also comes into the pit lane. Trixit comes in right behind as well. Wet tires now the optimum choice, and those drivers who are still out there on slicks are going to have a tough time trying to maintain traction. Manelli has just a little bit longer to go. Has Ormiston played the strategy perfectly? Trixit as well. They both stayed out just long enough. And has Trixit cleared the stop? Has Trixit cleared the stop? I don't think he has. The pit stop does not show clear. Did he take fuel and tires? Did it put him back out on slicks? Is it a pit stop blunder from Trixit? And judging by the slippage of that car through turns 1 and 2, he may have gone back out on slicks without changing tires. Ormiston is out in the lead, but not for long as Prieto and Aramich take that lead right back. Now it is a fight between the top two. Prieto with a big slide through turn 3, trying to get on the power a touch more than his competitor behind. And Aramich, does he find the opening into turn 4? No, not quite. Yes, he does. Aramich goes around the inside. Prieto struggling for grip, and Aramich retakes the lead in an unconventional overtaking spot. But he forces the overtake, put the car on the inside, and I think Prieto is having issues. But has Prieto gone on a different strategy? Is Prieto out on slicks? Judging by the lack of traction from Prieto, it's very possible that he's out on slicks. And no, Devin Lingard had the podium lined up, gets a drive-through penalty. And it is tears and heartbreak all over the track. I think Prieto may very well be out on slicks, as he does not have much traction, but it is a gamble that he is willing to take if he has to stay out for the time being on slicks. It's at least a new set of slicks, and if he has to stay out, so be it. He has margin to lose in terms of the championship. But I think what Prieto is waiting for is this rain to end, the sun to possibly come back out, or the track to go back to damp. Trixit had to come back into the pit lane. Again, I think it was a pit stop blunder. And now Trixit will be forfeiting quite a few positions. We shall see where Devin Lingard will come out, but Brother Elmo, currently in P3, may be looking to be promoted up to P2, and Michael D may find himself back on the podium in AM this season once again. Ormiston has overtaken Prieto, and Ormiston likely on those wet tires, but I think Prieto took the gamble on the weather strategy. Again, he seems to be very, very slow, and as long as he can survive out on track, Ormiston with a bit of an overshoot into turn 7 and 8 though. Devin Lingard still with the drive-through penalty. Goose Slayer and Yakashokis. Yakashokis was very close to Goose Slayer, but that gap has closed up now. Brute and your mom in a battle for P6 here. Again, it will be interesting to watch that battle between Aramich, Ormiston, and Prieto. The rain is going to end by the end of the session. The rain will end here in just a couple minutes, and wet's likely not going to be the tire of choice, but it's very possible that we could go back to greasy conditions and slicks be the ultimate choice, and in which case Prieto may have done an excellent job with the pace. It's way too late for anyone to come back into the pit lane and try and throw a set of slicks on for the very end of the session. It just depends on whether or not those slick tires are going to have so much of a pace advantage over wet tires when this track starts to dry a little bit. Brute and your mom, as your mom gets a nose up the inside at turn 2, around turn 3, and no, just finds the painted tarmac, and there is no grip out there whatsoever. Your mom will drop behind, and that gap will start to open up. Devin Lingard still with 1 lap to serve that drive-through penalty for, not sure of exactly what it was for. I believe it was for track limits, but I think he got it when he came out of the pit lane. And a similar move that we just saw between Trixit and Brute goes between Goose Slayer and Peach. Peach and the Porsche found the inside and cruised right on by. Aramich, your race leader, has just cruised off into the distance, but now the track is damp. Just a slight drizzle that will end by the end of the next lap. And then the track will start a drying process. If the sun comes out, that would rapidly accelerate that drying process, and we may see Prieto find that rapid pace if those slicks start to come back alive. Your mom right back into the heat of this battle, and they have both caught up to the Mustang of Giant up ahead. Brute went very, very deep into the chicane, and side by side they go through the final corner. Neither of those drivers at full throttle as they are both trying to contend for what little grip there is on track through that section. And now your mom takes P6 away from Brute, and it has his eyes locked on P5 up ahead from Giant. Stolowski and Griffith in a battle for position here. And Stolowski finds a way around the McLaren. Dingham trying to chase down the reigning champion of Slapshot. Slapshot, I believe, gets a poor exit out of turn 2, or out of turn 3. Not quite close enough to make it happen. Side by side, this battle is not over between Brute and your mom. Your mom just wants to pull away and press the issue onto Giant and the Mustang up ahead, but Brute is not going to make it that easy. Your mom just has to focus on the task ahead. And Stolowski also joining this fight as well. We may have a four-way fight for P5 before the end of this race. Rain has stopped, the track is drying. Is Prieto going to have the race start to come back his way? Has been very much on the back foot since the pit stop. Does have the margin in the championship points to be able to gamble a little bit. I think that's exactly what's happened. The 93 of Tychopath, who I believe did suffer from a disconnection earlier with a 30-second, sorry, not a 30-second, yes, a 30-second stop and go penalty, I believe, for speeding in pit lane. Battle between Brute and Stolowski. Porsches side by side, door to door. They make contact with each other. Stolowski goes off the track. Somehow your mom survives. And while there was contact and they both did go off the track, minimal loss from the two of them, but no, Brute rejoins, makes contact with the nose of Dingham. Stolowski still trying to clean those tires off as muddy tires and wet track don't really mix. And Brute loses a ton of positions and goes into the pit lane, likely with damage. Griffith starting to suffer a bit of a loss of grip as Stolowski once again has to try and go past. Do they make contact? I think they may have slightly made contact. Slapshot is now right in the middle of this, and we've got some racing here, ladies and gentlemen, with just less than 5 minutes left to go in this race. It took quite some time for the race to heat up, but it has definitely heated up. Dingham and Griffith now go side by side through turn 9, and it's a bunch of McLarens all trying to fit in the spot where they should really be only able to fit one. Manelli, the AM race leader, Brother Elmo in P2, and Devin Lingard back into P3 somehow in AM. Griffith struggling for traction heading up the hill towards turn 12. Is Dingham going to be able to find a way past? Does run out a little bit wider. The 93 still with that 30-second stop and go penalty. Scroll gets a 10-second stop and go penalty, and I think that those may be for track limits. Unsure of exactly what would have caused them, especially a 10-second stop and go. That's a very light penalty. The drag race down towards turn 1 between Griffith and Dingham. Sierra in the Lexus, who I believe is laps down, is just going to be allowed to watch from behind. Dingham goes to send it up the inside at turn 1, but goes a bit too deep. Griffith will take it right back, or at least they'll be side by side through 2. Griffith does take that position, and now Dingham forced around the outside. Griffith a bit of a loss of traction up the inside, back door to door between these two, and now Dingham found the long way around the outside and takes P9 away from Griffith once again. Your mom and Stolowski. This battle for P6 as your mom is still trying to catch up to the Mustang of Giant for P5. The teammate of Slapshot also starting to claw his way back in. Prieto may once again have the session going back his way as the sun starts to peek out, but it's too little too late. it is very possible that Prieto will be able to catch up to Ormiston if this track dries. And yes, it is a corner cutting penalty. That is what Scroll got there, where he got that 10-second stop and go. And we will see if Prieto is able to use those dry tires. Where is Prieto gone? He's quite a far ways back. The number 93 of Tychopath, I believe, gets disqualified for failing to serve the penalty. What have we here? Giant in the Mustang with your mom and Stolowski both behind. A bit further back, I believe that was Trixit that I saw. Unsure of exactly who I saw further back there. But a three-way fight between these three, between Giant, your mom, and Stolowski. Giant leads, your mom leads Stolowski. The sun has come out. Wet tires are going to start to be getting very, very warm as they come through turn 4. Aramich, your race leader, will be coming up to the final lap of this race. Prieto, I don't think will be able to catch up to Mustang of Ormiston. It's too little too late for those tires. If Prieto did come out on slicks, again, I don't exactly know if he did. And we start to see the tire struggles from Stolowski and Slapshot. Stolowski with a very stoic defense against your mom. Slapshot is pulled right on into this fight, and Dingham may have broken away from Griffith, has broken away from Griffith. I think Griffith was succumbed to a spin or something as Yakashokis has gone up ahead. But now Dingham may find his way onto the back of this fight, and it becomes a 5-way fight for P5. Just depends on how hard they continue to battle. Stolowski closes up onto the rear bumper of the Mustang. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 fighting for P5. Giant tries to break the toe. Stolowski will try and follow. No, Stolowski does not want to give the drivers behind any sort of slipstream, so he pulls out of the line and just wants to have Giant all to himself. As they come around turn 3. Aramich with just a few corners left to go. And also going back to P20. This is a battle in and of itself, but it's going to be... No, it's not over yet. Ricky Bobby and Ketu fighting amongst each other. Aramich just a few corners left to go. Back on board with this fight for P5. Stolowski versus Giant. To come up through turns 7 and 8. Stolowski all over the rear, but it's going to have to be a brave move into turn 10. Aramich has taken home the checkered flag. Ormiston will bring home P2. And Aramich closes up the gap to Prieto in that championship lead. Little by little, Prieto will bring home P3. And no, it's all in ruin as Giant makes contact with Stolowski. Stolowski's up ahead, then your mom, then Slapshot. Dingham is now behind a Giant. Unsure of exactly what happened there. Ouroboros brings home P4. Giant is now down 3 positions as Stolowski is up to P5. And will Stolowski be able to bring it home? The stewards will be looking at that incident. And if you missed it, I can guarantee you there will be clips of it in the Discord. If you'd like to see that, please join the Discord. Stolowski, P5, Slapshot, P6, your mom, P7, Giant, P8, Dingham, P9, Yakashokis, P10, Griffith, P11, Marvy, P12, Manelli with Trixit right behind. Manelli takes home the win in AM and will definitely close up that AM championship fight by quite a bit. Trixit, P14, Peach, P15, Gooseslayer, P16. Bradzilla behind. Douglas will bring home P17, Ketu P18, Ricky Bobby P19. Devin Lingard will bring home the AM podium. P2 in AM for Devin Lingard. The best finish for Devin Lingard so far in his GoFAST racing career. Brother Elmo takes home P3 in AM. Francisco P21, Phoenix Gecko P22, Michael D P4 in AM, P23 overall, Cabe P5 in AM, P25 overall. It's Aramich back on top, taking home the checkered flag. P1 for Aramich, P2 for Ormison, and P3 for Prieto. Manelli P1 in AM, Devin Lingard P2, and Brother Elmo P3. An absolutely awesome showing from GoFAST Racing tonight. Never fails to amaze, always fails to disappoint. Thank you all for tuning in. Please don't go anywhere. We are going to go ahead and throw a raid to somebody. If you are not subscribed to the Twitch channel, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe. It would help me quite a bit. Also does give me a bit of perks, such as better emotes, and it also does help me financially. And you also don't have to deal with any ads. And if you have Amazon Prime, you do get a free Twitch Prime subscription, which is the same thing as a regular Twitch subscription. It just doesn't cost you anything. And if you are not following, I would greatly appreciate it if you would follow. We just hit the 500 follower milestone, and I hope to someday reach the 1,000 follower milestone. It may take a while to get there, but thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and raid whatever fool again. Drummond Race, as he likes to call it. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next week for race number 9. So go ahead and join in on that raid, and we'll go ahead and throw whatever fool a quick raid as he is playing some Azotto Corsa Competizione. Just as we were, except he's got some drum and bass tracks going on with it as well.